alcohol in has lost 830 billion in 4 years because Gen Z isn't drinking. Here's what I'll put that down to. Gen Z have become more body conscious. It's all about presentation and, because they're on social media a lot more than ever, way more than my generation. They've grown up watching all of these, what I call superhumans. So if you go on Instagram now and then you go on the search tab, what you'll see is, you'll see what people say is your algorithm, what you're searching. So in my algorithm, there was a load of beautiful looking women, right? Beautiful. Black women, fair-skinned women, white women, all on exotic holidays, okay? I'm not searching these things, but they were in my algorithm. But what it's shown to me is like aesthetically beautiful women, barely any imperfection, right? So when you drink alcohol and you party and you do all these drugs, we all know over time that's going to make you look like crap from a visual standpoint. So when you've got Gen Z constantly on TikTok and they're seeing all these pretty people that they're following, like I call them superhumans because of just the way they visually look. Like, obviously, there's probably altered features and whatnot and Photoshop, but they look like the best of the best. When you're sat there watching that, especially this young lot, they're sat there saying to themselves, I want to be that. I want to have the thin waist. I want to have the chiseled six-pack. I want to have... Women are looking at the thin waist, the big ass, pretty teeth, pretty hair, holding a nice expensive bag in an expensive restaurant. They're thinking to themselves, I want to look as pretty as that. And then when I look in the mirror myself, I've got a bit of a pudge or whatever. They're saying to themselves, alcohol isn't going to get me the body I want. So alcohol is on the way down. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the generation above, I call it baby boomers. Yeah, shortly after World War II, those children. Baby boomers and Gen X. Okay, so the baby boomers are what? Age 75 onwards now, and then you've got Gen X, we'll call it 50 to 60, 50, 60s. We call it that range. So 50 onwards, a lot of those people were, I call them the pub generation, where pubs were like the thing. That's where they'd go to socialize. Go in the evening, have a pint, and the term dad body came from all of those men that had these big bellies, these husbands with big bellies, happily married, wife, kids, but the dad always had a big stomach because in that generation, gyms weren't a thing. They didn't have 24-hour gyms like we do now, and there wasn't social media, so they weren't as body conscious. It's like women accepted that the male becomes this overweight blob when he hits a certain age, and because women are seeing all their other female friends' husbands that way, they just accepted their own husband that way. Whereas my generation, that was when the 24-hour gyms started to become a thing, and then Kim Kardashian came along with a thin waist and big ass, and then she set off a wave of women wanting to look like that. So you had loads of women getting in the gym. Guys like us, we always in competition, fierce competition. So we don't want a woman to ignore us because a guy over there had a better body than us. So we're always in the gym, my generation, millennials. And then Gen Z, they've just been born straight into everybody looking pretty once they look in their phone. They're not paying attention to the person on the street. They're paying attention to the person on the phone. So naturally, they're just going to want to not really partake in things that are going to hinder their visual in the long run. Everybody's body conscious these days, everybody. And it's not going to change, them trying to ban social media for kids. They're still going to want to grow up and be in a competitive mindset. Me, I'm all for it. I'm all for people being in shape because nobody wants to look in a mirror and find themselves undesirable. Don't get me wrong, it can get a bit too carried away where you're so fixated on your look, you then start doing stupid things like getting surgery on your face and, but at the same time, some people do need the odd bit, and I have no problem with people tweaking themselves just to get that bit of dopamine feeling that you get when you walk into a place and a woman who's attractive notices you. I can't speak for women, but as a man, when I walk into a venue and I see girls lock their eyes on me, it's a beautiful feeling. There's like a dopamine hit you get from that. That's just me being honest. And once you've felt that dopamine hit, you want it to carry on. So you're always constantly making sure your image is presentable so you can get that feeling. And I don't really care in the sense of whether you're in a relationship or you're happy, you're still gonna want to feel that. I've got a friend who's dedicated to his woman. He's happily married. Even before he was married, never would cheat, never would do any of those things. But when he came out with us, he would love the fact that women would still approach him. He'd always say, no, sorry, I've got a lady at home. But he just loved the fact that a woman still approached him. And all he needed was one woman to approach him, and then he was fine for the night. As long as she approaches him and he can decline, he was happy then, because it let him still know that he's still got it. And we're creatures of nature. We're always going to want that feeling, even if we're married, even if we're happy, you still just want to know that, am I that's still attractive. You know, just to comment to somebody, you can just brighten up their day by just saying, ain't you pretty, you know? Not to blow my own horn, I had it the other day. I was walking down the street and a girl said to me, an Asian girl, she's like, you're really handsome. And I was like, thanks. You know, it made my day. That's just me being honest. It absolutely made my day. Just that, it's a good feeling. So when you say things like that, I don't care how modest a person wants to try and make themselves out to be, or I'm not bothered about those things. No, these things feel nice when you hear things like that. And Gen Z are just chasing that beautiful look. You're not going to really get that beautiful look being swamped in alcohol, especially beer. You know, you might be able to get away with drinking spirits. Beer, stay away from. That's just going to make you fat and out of shape. You're just going to have a dad body when you're older. If you're a man and if you're a woman, we all know what goes on with women. Your body just starts falling apart. Plus, you already are bearing kids. You carry the kids, and then that kids, unfortunately, does have somewhat of a hindrance to the woman's body afterwards. You know, it's a beautiful thing to produce a child, but we know there's after effects on the woman. So do you really want to be adding alcohol to that situation? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, innit? Like and subscribe.